Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm taking you to the Ultra League Premier Cup, which has made its glorious return once again to the Go Battle League. The Ultra Premier Cup is a 2500 combat power format where legendary Pokemon, mythical Pokemon, and Ultra Beasts have all been banned. And today I'm going to be showcasing a team that I had amazing results with. This team was consistently positive up until I basically ran out of opponents to queue into. The team is as follows: Shadow Malamar, Shadow Toucannon, and Licky Licky. So two glass cannons that can output a ton of damage, and then Licky Licky provides the team with much needed bulk. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and we're off to a terrible start in game number 1, as Pangoro is a huge core breaker for this team. I save switch into Toucannon, and my opponent responds with a Jellicent. This is not a response to Toucannon. Toucannon not gonna bait, going straight for the Beak Blast, and that is devastating damage onto Jellicent. Jellicent is pretty much dead weight into this team. Anytime you encounter Jellicent, there's a high likelihood you're probably going to win because you have two normal types and a dark type in Malamar. My opponent sends out Shadow Empoleon, and this is where things could get a little bit scary. Empoleon will get shredded by the Beak Blast, so they're forced to put up the shield. I'm gonna bank a Drill Peck for later and then send in Licky Licky. My opponent has so much stored energy on the Empoleon, but I do have a plan. And this plan involves double shielding Licky Licky. My opponent's at the back-to-back close combats, but I'm pretty okay with that. I'm going to be double shielding, prioritizing as much Licky Licky HP as I possibly can, and hopefully now that they're at -4, I can just knock them out with a Body Slam. Body Slam is going to land, unfortunately does not take the knockout, and I'll have to fire off Body Slam number 2. I really hoped I could use this energy on the Empoleon, but I need Pangoro gone. Back in comes the Shadow Empoleon. They have to be close to 100 energy. Shadow Ball gets the shield. I wait the turn and get the CMP sack swap onto Shadow Toucannon. Drill Peck is going to land. We catch the Hydro Cannon as well. And that play may have just flipped this game into our favor. The Empoleon still has so much loaded energy. In comes Malamar. Malamar is going to try and race to the charge attack. Empoleon fires off the Hydro Cannon. That's going to land. I make it to the superpower, but I lose charge attack priority. The game now comes down to this: can I make a move on Licky Licky? And if they get the Hydro Cannon, will Hydro Cannon be enough to KO? This is going to be close. Pangoro's such a bad lead for us, but we're able to get the win. Licky Licky just too bulky. With the help of Licky Licky and a CMP sack swap, we're able to overcome the worst case scenario lead and take the game 1 win. Hopping into game number 2, and we get the best possible lead, Shadow Malamar into Oranguru. There's nothing that Oranguru can really do in this matchup. My opponent safe switches into a Thundershock Belly Bolt. That is such a risky play. If I have any kind of ground type, they lose on the spot, but I don't have a resistance to electric on this team, so I'm actually going to be staying in with the Malamar. My goal here is, if at all possible, I would love to try and win switch advantage. But even if I can't win switch advantage, if I can just generate a shield advantage, specifically the 1-0 shield advantage for my Toucannon, I assume that Toucannon is basically going to sweep anything endgame. So I will put up a shield since my opponent shielded themselves, and now I get to fire off Superpower. This, even with all their defense boosts, will pick up the knockout, and I'm able to get the final shield. At this point, I'm okay letting the Shadow Malamar go. Shadow Malamar got both shields, got them deep into the red HP, and now I can send in Licky Licky. My opponent banks energy, in comes Oranguru, and this is going to be a very slow mid-game. Because unfortunately, my Body Slam does basically no damage to XL Oranguru, whereas XL Oranguru can't really do much damage either. So Body Slam after Body Slam is going to connect, but I know that I need to save the shield for Toucannon because I'm pretty sure they have a move banked on Belly Bolt. They go for the Trailblaze, ramping up damage, and man, the bulk in the Ultra League is just insane. I fire off another Body Slam. I know that a Body Slam will not knock out here, so I'm just not going to fire off my energy yet. Brutal Swing is going to land. I'm able to get one final Body Slam, and I'm hoping that with the rollout damage, this will finally be enough to take the knockout. Body Slam is going to land. It does not take the knockout. In comes Gastrodon, and Toucannon is looking to sweep. They don't build up to the Water Pulse. They only end up going for the Body Slam, so I don't have to shield. Now I can throw 4 Pecks and the Beak Blast, and Shadow Beak Blast is just an absolute terror in this meta. Beak Blast picks up the one-hit knockout. They still have Belly Bolt, but Belly Bolt's not going to like what comes next. Back in comes Belly Bolt, looking to boost up its defense with the Parabolic Charge, but I have a shield, and I'm going for the farm down. We get the resisted Peck farm down, exiting with the Beak Blast loaded. In comes the 1 HP Oranguru, and this is massive overkill, knocking them out and taking the win. We move to the next match, leading Shadow Malamar into XL Turtonator, an incredibly cool pick. Turtonator is going to get outpaced by Malamar, but Turtonator is so bulky in the Ultra League that foul play doesn't really threaten them. So I am going to respect the Dragon Claw, as it would do quite a bit of damage. They full send the Dragon Claw and safe switch into Corviknight. I don't have a strong answer to Corviknight on this team. My game plan is to chip it with Superpower, try and bank some extra energy, and then send in Licky Licky. Just the bulk of Licky Licky is my best chance at neutralizing the Corviknight. Corviknight fires off the payback, and thankfully, 2 paybacks will not come close to knocking out. I farm up just shy of 100 energy and go for the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball lands Corviknight now into the red HP, but their switch timer's up, and they pivot into Ludicolo. So a very anti-meta team from my opponent. Ludicolo is a Pokemon that unfortunately I don't have the XLs for, so I can't try out myself, but does look pretty fun. Unfortunately for them, they have no fast move pressure here, so they're going to be forced to fire off a Leaf Storm because Weather Ball, the damage is just simply not going to cut it. I'm okay with them Leaf Storming though. I lose the Ludicolo, but I will get farm on Toucannon. And Toucannon farm is scary to basically any Pokemon that could ever encounter it. Back in comes Corviknight. Corviknight, even if they go for the payback, I should hang on. It is the payback. Corviknight barely hangs on. I bank the Drill Peck and send in Malamar. Malamar will fire off the foul play before they're able to make it to a charge stack, and down goes Corviknight. My opponent's going to have to send back in that Turtonator, and Turtonator has taken quite a bit of damage throughout the course of this match. Add to that the fact that I have so much stored energy. I'm in back-to-back moves on the Malamar. I have a Drill Peck loaded on Toucannon. At this point in the game, I should just have more charge stacks than they have shields. In comes Ludicolo. Ludicolo does not get the Weather Ball. The Psywave pressure is too much. Back in comes Turtonator, and they can't afford to shield Superpower because Drill Peck will do more. So they no shield, they hang on 1 HP, but they do not have a charge stack loaded, and we're able to take the win. Shadow Malamar into Jellicent, and this should basically just be a free win for this team, as the entire team is able to beat Jellicent. If Jellicent stays in, then ideally I want to try and catch a Shadow Ball onto my Licky Licky. I anticipate that they would throw on their 6th hex, but they end up throwing on the 5th. So, a slight miscalculation from me, but this is still a very positive matchup for the Malamar, as even though I'm pretty low, I will exit with quite a bit of residual energy. Foul play is going to be shielded. If they're staying in and shielding, then they're clearly just double or even triple weak to the Malamar, so I'm going to save the Malamar and catch onto Licky Licky. My opponent sends out XL Oranguru. Oranguru is a Pokemon that I saw quite a bit in the early days of this Ultra Premier meta. Oranguru, it's just so monstrously bulky. I think if Malamar wasn't a Pokemon in this meta, it would probably be one of the most used, but unfortunately, its matchup into Malamar is just so incredibly catastrophically bad. Oranguru fires off the Trailblaze, that still just does nothing, and I'm going to get Body Slam after Body Slam launched at this Oranguru. Unfortunately, the Oranguru is more than up to absorbing all of this energy, so I fire off yet another Body Slam, hoping it will KO. Oranguru refuses to get knocked out, and in comes Credilli. And unfortunately, I'm down on energy, which means I have to fire off the Drill Peck instead of trying to commit to the Beak Blast, but I'm a Shadow Toucannon. This Pokemon's damage output is just absolutely absurd. I really think it's one of the most overpowered Ultra League Mons, and in the Premier format, it is just absolutely incredible. I get to overform slightly, CMP tie with a -1 Drill Peck. It would have KO'd, they're forced to burn the shield, and now it all comes down to this. When will they try and go for a combo play? I'm not in range of a foul play knocking out. We actually go for a simultaneous switch. I try and catch on Licky Licky, and they try and catch on Jellicent. Jellicent will take the knockout with Shadow Ball. I have the move loaded on Toucannon, which is really nice. Back in comes the Oranguru, and Oranguru can't get the farm down. The rollout would have KO'd. They're forced to go for the Brutal Swing. I send in Malamar to absorb energy, and then I can knock them out with a Peck and have a Beak Blast loaded for that Credilli. The Credilli has the charge stack loaded, but they know they're never winning that cap tie, and they will resign the match. Shadow Malamar into Shadow Typhlosion in the next match. This is a pretty okay lead. I'm more than happy to see the Typhlosion here because that means it's not fully farming down my Toucannon. Malamar is going to farm up 19 Psywaves, fire off the foul play. They should undertap the Thunder Punch, so I will get a catch onto Licky Licky. Thunder Punch not going to do much, but my opponent reads the play and they fire off Blast Burn. Oh my goodness, that is a sensational play from my opponent, and I've lost a lot of health as a result. That's great anticipation for my opponent, recognizing that they kind of have to throw there, so it's a pretty safe catch for me. If they Blast Burn, then they cover for me trying to go for the catch. In comes Malamar. Malamar has to put up the shield as Brutal Swing would just about take the knockout. I'm going to look to overfarm as much as I can and fire off superpower right before they're able to make their move. My opponent is committing resources to Hydreigon, and unfortunately for me, that means I'm going to have to let this go and trust in Shadow Toucannon. In comes Toucannon, in the back is Licky, but even though they have a rollout user into my flying type, I think I can win this game. If I can get a peck down after landing a Beak Blast, then I'm going to exit with a ton of energy, and I should just be able to take the win. So I fire off the Beak Blast, and that looks to be 5 peck range to me. So I should be winning this game. I can farm down with a ton of energy and just make double drill peck to secure the win. Toucannon doesn't get the farm down. Oh man, we were like 1 HP off taking the win because Toucannon could have swept, but unfortunately Licky is just too bulky and we will lose that game. Things are looking much better in the next match as my Shadow Malamar lead completely core breaks my opponent's Como-O plus Jellicent duo. I'm able to bank a ton of energy on Malamar, send Licky into the Jellicent, and I saw so many teams today that were disrespecting Shadow Malamar. It really felt like Shadow Malamar could basically 1v2 in a lot of games, and in the rare moment when it couldn't, if they actually had Malamar counters, then it was the Shadow Toucannon 1v2ing. And that's what I really like about having kind of a double Shadow strategy, is if one of the Shadows is kind of in a really tough spot in a certain game, then the other one can probably feast. Here in this matchup, I did misplay. When they bring in the Como-O, I should have just fired off the Shadow Ball, and then I could have brought in the Malamar. But I end up banking the energy, and that gives them a huge energy head start, forcing me to fire off all of my energy on Malamar and go down a shield. So definitely not a clean play pattern from me there. My opponent brings back in the Jellicent and throws energy. So at this point, I'm fully expecting they're just triple weak. Surf is going to land. In comes Empoleon, looking for a farm down, but they do not get there. Their 2 Metal Sounds do not take the knockout. Superpower is able to get the shield, and I have 100 energy on my Licky. Realistically, I probably should have thrown on alignment there since I was already at 100, but in the moment, I forgot if I had banked 100 or just shy of 100, so I figured it was safer to throw the rollout. Shadow Ball, first one lands, second one is going to be shielded, and my opponent is forced to take the KO. But I should be able to take the win because even though Hydro Cannon will do a lot to Shadow Toucannon, it's not going to be enough to put me into farm down range. So my plan here is pretty simple, just keep farming. At some point, they're going to have to try for a catch, and when they fail to catch, they will automatically lose the game. So I was fully content on just letting myself get farmed down there, because I knew at some point they had to go for the catch, and once they failed to catch, it was a pretty straightforward win from there. Shadow Malamar into Florges, so actually encountering a little bit of adversity. Against Florges leads, I like to stay in with the Malamar, wait for them to fire off a Chilling Water, and then look to save switch into Licky. Unfortunately, I actually get damage registration error there, which means that my Psywave, which should have registered instantly, didn't register until after the charge move, giving me a 1-turn switch into Licky when I should have been able to get 0. So that does put me a little bit on the back foot here, because I wasn't able to get Licky on the field as quickly as I would have liked. But the fact that Florges is staying in, I'm super happy with, because I've already gotten really good damage on it. My opponent sends in for Alligator, and this is quite bad. Switch Clock's not up, so I'm forced to fire off double debuff to energy. Shadow Ball is going to do absolutely nothing. I'm just going to stay in here because my opponent's going to reach 100 energy before me. They're going to be forced to throw energy, and when they do, then I can switch out and reset my debuff. So, even though my energy didn't really go very far in -2, I now have 100 energy and I have reset the debuff. Unfortunately, I'm still in a very tough spot. For Alligator is back-to-back Hydro Cannons. I really think that I have to double shield the Malamar here. If I let the Malamar go, I would have had to go down shields with Toucannon anyway, so I would rather keep the Malamar around with a decent amount of HP. My opponent pivots back in the Florges, I overfarm to the max and fire off Superpower to ensure the knockout. I'm debuffed, but I can look to reset the debuff and just get aggressive and pivot into Toucannon. In the back is Jellicent, and this is one of the perfect Pokemon for me to see. Because I have 100 energy on Licky. That energy is going to go very far against the Jellicent, and I can farm up to the back-to-back drill packs. The threat of Beak Blast should be forcing a shield from my opponent, and I undertap trying to CMP type, but my opponent does end up going for the extra. They're now 1 over trying to make it to the back-to-back Surfs, but importantly, they fire off their energy 1 hex short of the back-to-back. This means that I should be able to bring in the Licky and fire off Shadow Ball. My opponent has 2 Ghost Fast Move Pokemon left, so the only way they're knocking this out is by throwing their Surf. I switch into the Malamar, which allows me to win one of 2 ways. If I get the catch, I win, and if I don't get the catch and snipe them down with a foul play, then I also end up winning, as I can Psywave down after and secure the game. Hopping to the final match, leading Shadow Malamar into Tentacruel. And the fact that Tentacruel is staying in means once again, we have caught another trainer who's ABA weak to Malamar. In that previous game, that was one of the games where they actually had good Malamar checks, but with saving a ton of energy on Licky Licky and consistently resetting debuffs, I was able to put myself in a pretty good position. Unfortunately, what puts me in a pretty bad position in this game is my opponent making a fantastic catch of foul play onto Florges. I look to farm up a ton of energy on Licky Licky. Realistically here, I should have fired off the body slam sooner to guarantee some damage before I was debuffed, so that's a bit of sloppy gameplay from me, but we're going to fire off the Shadow Ball, and even at -1, that will still do some pretty nice damage. I'm realizing that I can't really knock out with a Shadow Ball here, I'm too debuffed. So my game plan is to try and use the tactic that I used last game. I'm just going to bank a ton of energy on Licky Licky and pivot out. That way I can reset my debuffs. In comes Toucannon, answered with the Tentacruel, and this is a very comfortable one-shield farm down. I'm going to get a huge energy head start. So I look for the farm. Clearly whatever they had in the back was weak to Toucannon, as my opponent will immediately concede the match. All in all, I had a very fun day one of the Ultra League Premier Cup. Unfortunately, the first few hours I had to spend tanking in the Open Great League, just top left in games, so that way I could actually get Qs in the Ultra League Premier Cup, but they ended up being very enjoyable. I was a little worried that with a lot of the legendary Pokemon gone that do a good job at checking Belly Bolts, that Belly Bolts would be everywhere and would be an absolute nuisance, but honestly, I didn't see a ton of Belly Bolts, and when I saw it, it felt pretty playable because Shadow Malamar Psywaves just absolutely delete that Mon. So for day one, I really enjoyed this format. It's always been a pretty fun format for me, so to have it come back and have it still be enjoyable even with a lot of move updates is something that I am very excited about. Even if its influence has faded in the Open Great League, Shadow Malamar is probably the GOAT of the Ultra League. Whether it's Open Ultra League, Ultra Premier, this Pokemon is an absolute nightmare to deal with. It has the perfect combination of incredible pacing, great damage, great coverage, and it's just consistent even in its bad matchups like going up against Florges. And as for Shadow Toucannon, I think Shadow Toucannon, the only reason its usage isn't higher is just because people are unaware of how broken this mod is in the Ultra League. It's kept a bit balanced by the fact that it is so incredibly frail, but Shadow Beak Blast is just an absolutely absurd move. And even if you have a resistance to flying, a Shadow Beak Blast will probably still take away half your entire health bar. Like the fact that in a one-shield scenario, I was almost able to Beak Blast and then peck down a Licky Licky, which takes every charge attack very comfortably, just is a testament to how incredibly strong this Pokemon is. And when you combine those two Shadows together, the Shadow Malamar and the Shadow Toucannon, that is an absolute recipe for success in this cup. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please do leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you have not. And an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. Thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.